Good evening, everybody. Please remain standing for prayers from the Rabbi Aaron Goldstein. Thank you.
I'm always a bit nervous about that. You please feel free. I don't even tell my congregation to stand or sit. You do what you want to do. But I often go off piste, and I thought I'd better stick to some kind of brief tonight. So I looked at what the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, says a little bit about leadership. And there are two main passages. One that says, Havu lechem anashim hachamim unvonim viduchem l'shivteichem va'asimechem b'rosheichem, which I'm sure you don't need me to translate, but I will do so, just if there are one or two of you that don't understand Hebrew. It says, choose for each one of you, each of your tribes, individuals who are wise, understanding, and of good reputation. And then I, God, will make them leaders over you. And the second command in the book of Deuteronomy, I won't bother with the Hebrew this time, but seek out from all of the people able individuals who revere God, and to that sense I mean who think about people outside of themselves, who are not self-centered, love truth and hate dishonest gain, and make them leaders of the people as officers over thousands, hundreds, 50s and 10s. What's so interesting is that the leaders were not chosen by God. They were chosen out of the community. And how wise that was. Rather than somebody jettisoned in from outside, able people were chosen from inside of the community. And within any borough, we need to choose the people who are able, who have the good reputation among the tribes, the particular communities, to represent their people within a local area. One of the first opportunities I had to practice as a rabbi was to consecrate a cemetery for a new congregation that we established in Manchester and then one in Eastbourne. And I went to my father, who'd been a rabbi for nearly 40 years, and I said to him, Dad, how do I consecrate the cemetery? And he shrugged. He said, I've been a rabbi for 40 years and I've never consecrated a cemetery, and you 4 months, you get 2. So I had to wing it and make it up. We're inspired by the inspiration of those who come before us and learn from them. And at the same time, we sometimes need to plough our own path and bring our own individuality into our roles. And we are fortunate that we are able to have the space to do that. Finally, a prayer for all those in leadership. And as I've said before, when I use the word G-O-D, within Judaism, that's not the word we use, and please feel free to use the word that you would choose. Indeed, it may not be G-O-D or any kind of divine source, it may be from elsewhere. Please have the maturity to accept this prayer. We pray for all who exercise leadership in our community and spend themselves in the service of others, those who hold high office, and those who volunteer for humbler tasks that are no less essential. May God grant them wisdom and understanding, and a high consciousness of their responsibility, combined with humility, a sense of proportion, and humour. May the work they do seem to them an honour rather than a burden, and give them joy and satisfaction. Through their leadership and service, may our community grow in strength and vigour, harmony and happiness, and make its contribution to the well-being of society.
Please be seated. Thank you. Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the annual meeting of our Council 2019. Please could I have apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have apologies from Councillors Gardner, Jackson and Edwards.
Do we have any more? No? Thank you very much. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations from anyone? Oh, it's going to be a quick meeting until you get to my item. Okay, well, on to item number 3 then, please, the election of the mayor. It starts off with me, I'm afraid. And it states in the agenda that I have to do a summary of my year in office. And when I prepared the speech, it was over 2 hours long. If you believe that, I've got it on 3 pieces of card, so don't time it. But I thought I'd give you a highlight of some of the events that I've attended this over my past year. I think possibly the wettest was one of my first events back in May 2018 when I opened the first Northwood Scouts jumble sale with past Mayor Councillor Carol Melvin deciding it was time to start the demolition of the Scout hut. And I think we got rather wet that day. The nerve-wracking was back in June, the Freedom of the Borough parade for the RAF 100. And ladies, when you've seen all these guys standing to attention in front of you and you have to speak to them, small speak, and I'll tell you what, it's nerve-wracking, believe me. I think the proudest moment is possibly back in August when we had the Peter Pan and Wendy Ward demolition and 6 personnel from RAF Northolt came along, hobnail boots, hard hats, sledgehammers over their shoulders, and within a few hours that condemned building was demolished and looking a lot cleaner than they had found it, and their reward was pizzas and soft drink. The humbling was possibly in September when I was wreath laying both at Harmondsworth and Harefield. And when we think back at the number of young men that lost their lives in the First World War, especially in the Heathrow villages, it was humbling to see how many lives were lost for the Great War. Escapism. Did many of you see the London New Year's Day parade? Okay, I'll put my hand up. It was me in that Bears uniform. Yeah, when we came to the Hillingdon one, I was the Mayor Bear. I could see about 2 yards in front of me, and that was it. The glasses steamed up every time I put the head on. The heartwarming was in February, the Good Deeds Day, with the help of Brunel University and Uxbridge College. It was great to see so many of our university students helping out within Hillingdon, within Uxbridge, and many more of them will actually help other charities within the areas. Keep an eye open for them, give them support, cheer them on. Exhausting. Councillor Singh, I'm sorry, mine doesn't sound as good as your 10 marathons in 10 days. Thank you very much for doing that. But my marathon walk at the end of March, I walked about 30 miles, just over 30 miles. The first part in the north of the borough and all the hills, but it was harder on the south. That last mile just seemed to, are we nearly there yet? If you've got children, you know exactly what I'm on about. But guys, we live in a fantastic green borough. Get out there, enjoy it. And finally, the long time event that I'm hoping mayors in the future will continue this event, as well as the marathon walk, because I've had volunteers asking, will the new mayor do it? Well, hopefully the new mayor will continue the marathon walk. But I'm sure his mayoress will help. But I started off a cadet event tri-service, and it was a great event, and we had 4 different teams taking part, and that was in April, and I do hope that with the help of Councillor Hensley, his son Mark, that this will continue in the following years. But during my year, the mayoral team, and I include David, Mary, and past mayors Carol and John, we attended over 668 events and raised a fantastic £48,000. So thank you, all of you. As I said, a very big thank you for everyone that has helped and raised sponsorship. Even dropping £5, it's been fantastic. Just to let you know, my marathon walk before gift aid, I raised £1,400 on that marathon walk. So thank you again for everyone that sponsored me. Once I'm on the thank yous, and no, I haven't got a long list, you're okay. First of all, I'd just like to thank all the organisations, there are too many to list, and the volunteers who do so much for our borough. They are the people that make this borough great. Let's get out there, help and support them. They are fantastic. Everyone here, all you councillors, thank you for giving me the honour and privilege of being your mayor. The third, I'd like to thank our Deputy Mayor, David, thank you very much, sir, and Mary for everything you've done in helping in supporting me, and our past mayors as well for covering some of the events that I couldn't cover. So thank you very much. As you past mayors know, we can only do this with the help of some 4 excellent members of staff. Joe, Sue, Chris and Colin, thank you very much. You guys keep us on the straight and narrow. You guys make sure that we get somewhere on time without the stress. Thank you very much for all your hard work and help. Yeah. The next one is to the Mayoress and Escort. Yes, I had 2 women telling me what I should be doing. Lucky guy, maybe. Quite often called wife number 1 and wife number 2. Thank you very much, ladies, for all your help and being there for me and helping me on many, many events and telling me what's going on so that I didn't look the fool. And to show my appreciation, please could you come and collect some flowers? Finally, I'd just like to wish good luck and congratulations to our new mayor, his mayoress and the deputy mayor. Thank you very much. We now go to item 2, part 2, sorry, nominations for the mayor. Councillor Goddard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many councillors present have known David Yarrow for far longer than me. However, not so many have had the pleasure and the privilege of working closely with him, as I have for the past 2 years or so. David Yarrow was born and raised and educated in Bradford, West Yorkshire. Now, Yorkshire folk see themselves as a distinct breed apart from other English people. A widely observed characteristic amongst them is a direct, uncomplicated style of communication that leaves you in no doubt at all as to where you stand. This is very much the case with David, and in my view this is a powerful and positive attribute for a mayor to possess. David's academic studies saw him qualify as a metallurgist, and what then followed was a career that spanned 45 years, during which he held a number of management positions and caused him to travel around the world. David's long and distinguished political career began as a councillor in Manor Ward in 1990. Sadly, in 2002 he lost his seat, but showed great fortitude and persistence by returning to win a seat in Uxbridge North in 2006, where he served ever since. Since 1990, he's held just about every position open to him, with, of course, the notable exception of the leader of the council. Indeed, David held the position of mayor in 2010-11, and to quote him when reflecting on this current nomination, "Well, I must have done something right." David's leisure interests are in amateur radio, electronics, photography and foreign travel. So, as a future mayor, what could we expect from David? Well, firstly, we will all benefit from his vast experience of local politics. David was recently described as avuncular. Now, before some start reaching for their dictionaries, let me remind you that what it means is kind and friendly towards a younger and less experienced person. Now, from my own experience, I can wholeheartedly confirm that David possesses this quality. We will have as a mayor a man who passionately believes in high-quality debate in the council chamber. He has often expressed respect for members of the opposition, suggests that he will impose fair play, notwithstanding his firmly held political convictions. Now, something else I must tell you is that David has no need of microphones. I can tell you that from the experience of sitting next to him at group meetings for the last 2 years. Even the lowest key whisper has been heard by the rest of those present in this room and has regularly got us into, the pair of us, into a bit of hot water with the chairman. So, we will not only hear David's interjections during the course of our debates, they will, I know, be expressed with absolute clarity, consistency, and no small degree of good humour. Mr. Mayor, David Yarrow is a skilled communicator. He's a sincere, committed, and hard-working member of this council. He will be a true ambassador for everything this council stands for, and I therefore have great pleasure in proposing his candidacy as our next mayor.
Thank you very much. Do we have seconder, please? Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Councillor Ray Graham, Uxbridge North Ward, and it has been my pleasure and privilege to work alongside Councillor David Yarrow for 5 years as a fellow ward councillor, and I wholeheartedly second the proposal that's been put forward by Councillor Martin Goddard just now to put for Councillor Yarrow to be elected as mayor for the ensuing year. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other nominations? Councillor Bridges?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to speak in support for the nomination of Councillor David Yarrow. Over the years, I have been fortunate to work with David both on the council and in the wider community with joint projects between our respective wards, and indeed attended regular community events such as the recent visit to a mosque in Royal Lane earlier this year. During your long service, David, there have been many examples of your commitment to public service and to your community as a public advocate. We have also seen your determination to speak up for what you believe is right, whilst respecting the opposing views of others. A good example of this, which is widely known, is your support for the construction of Ruislip High School against much opposition, and the dignity shown when you lost your seat over the issue. Since then, however, your judgment has been proved correct, with a very popular school playing its part in meeting the demand for additional school places. I have also had the privilege in working alongside David politically on the campaign trail, pounding the streets to win the hearts and minds of residents in elections. On one occasion, we witnessed firsthand David canvassing on the doorstep, having what only be described as a heated debate at one household. Whilst the conversation appeared not to be an easy one, you reasoned with the lady and you listened to her views. And although she was in no mood to listen, you brought the conversation to a close by shaking the gentleman's hand and saying how sorry you were for any upset that you may have caused his dear mother, and encouraged them both to vote on polling day. And for the volunteers watching at a distance, this was an opportunity to witness an experienced councillor, a great communicator, engaging with local residents. However, experience is indeed a hard teacher, because it gives the test first and the lesson follows shortly afterwards. An example shown no clearer than the look on your face, David, when the gentleman corrected you on the fact that the lady in question was not his mother, but in fact his wife. Mr. Mayor, to be elected first citizen of the borough is one of the highest honours that can be bestowed on a member of the council. I believe Councillor Yarrow will carry out this duty to great effect, and in doing so wish him every success for the year ahead.
Is that agreed? Agreed. Congratulations, Councillor Yarrow. Mr. Mayor. We're going to adjourn for new robes, so remain here, please. Don't run too far. Thank you.
Oi. Yeah. Even those that have done it all before have to make some mistakes. I, David Anthony Yarrow, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the London Borough of Hillingdon, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to announce that concludes the appointment of Councillor David Anthony Yarrow to the position of Mayor of the London Borough of Hillingdon for the forthcoming municipal year. We now move to item 5 on the order paper, which is the appointment of the Deputy Mayor. Can I confirm that the Deputy Mayor will be Councillor Teji Barnes, who is sitting next to me, for the period 2019-2020, and that is my authorisation to do so. We now move on to item 6, which is the new Mayor's announcements. They are really quite brief this time, and the first thing I want to announce is who is to be my Mayoress for the forthcoming municipal year, and that person is going to be Mrs. Mary O'Connor, who is sitting over there, and I'm sure she's well known to all of you, and that's the authorisation to do so. I don't need a microphone, as we said. This is for all the work done as the Deputy Mayor, which is quite a thankless job. Most of the glory goes to the Deputy Mayor, but not to the Deputy Mayor. Well, here we are. Well done, Mary. Okay. And the second part. We now move to item 7, which is the vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor. I understand that Councillor Puddifoot is going to move this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's both an honour and a privilege to formally move a vote of thanks to Councillor John Morgan for his service to this borough and its residents as the worshipful Mayor of Hillingdon. John has worked tirelessly, ably assisted by the Mayoress, Fiona Morgan, and escort Pauline Bianco, in the office of First Citizen of this borough, attending more than 650 events both within and outside of the borough. I know how much John has enjoyed his mayoral year, learning many new skills along the way, from scything to cake making. He also honed his dancing skills, from ballroom to Bollywood, and I would not be surprised to learn that a place on Strictly Come Dancing is now on his agenda. I have on a number of occasions attended official events at which the Mayor and the Mayoress or escorts were present, and have seen and heard for myself from the many residents attending of the pleasure that they receive from the attendance of the Mayor at a particular event. During his mayoral year, John championed the cause of 3 charities: the Peter Pan and Wendy Children's Ward at Hillingdon Hospital, FAB, a national charity that brings together handicapped young people and able-bodied youngsters who act as their carers, and Grangewood School. To date, he has managed to raise, as John said, a fantastic £48,000 to assist his chosen charities. What he will be unaware of is that Hillingdon Council has once again come in under budget during John's municipal year, so I will be recommending to the Cabinet that the amount raised to date is doubled and increased to an even more fantastic £96,000. John, you've represented this borough with both dignity and compassion combined, with an unswerving sense of duty. Councillor John Morgan, you're a credit to the London Borough of Hillingdon. Together with Fiona and Pauline, please accept our grateful thanks for a job well done.
Councillor Curling, I think you're going to second that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is indeed with great pleasure that I second the vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Councillor John Morgan. Anyone who takes on the role of Mayor dedicates themselves to a gruelling schedule of public events throughout the year and throughout the borough, and indeed beyond the borough. Each mayor brings with them their own style and leaves their own legacy, each one raising an amazing amount of money for their chosen charities. I know John is extremely passionate when it comes to charities and good causes. I've served with him on the Fastenage Trust for many years, and he's also always shown dedication to his duties as a trustee, as well as a real compassion when it comes to awarding grants to some of those less fortunate members of our community. The mayoral role is a non-party political role, and John has proved a very fair person when chairing council meetings and keeping us in check, which is a task that I'm sure we all make a very difficult one. John has also been something of a progressive mayor by bringing some of the proceedings up to date, such as the introduction of multi-faith prayers at the start of meetings. This is a huge step forward in helping this chamber better reflect and represent the community in which we sit. So on behalf of the Labour Group and indeed the whole council, I wholeheartedly and sincerely second this vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Councillor John Morgan.
Councillor Bianco, I believe you signalled.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, may I congratulate you on your appointment as first citizen of this fine borough and take this opportunity to wish both you and your new mayoress every success for the year ahead. Turning now to the immediate past mayor, my fellow ward councillor John Morgan, can I start by thanking you too for your sterling work this last year, travelling the length and breadth of the borough, both in the mayoral limo and also, as I can testify, on foot during your mayoral walk. You have undoubtedly upheld the office of Mayor of Hillingdon with great skill and panache, and I know that the residents of Northwood Hills have been rightly proud that one of their own has held this high office. My thanks must also go to your Mayoress Fiona, who I believe has probably had the toughest year, working full-time in the city during the day and then turning out many evenings and weekends to support you. Next, may I thank you personally for keeping my wife occupied this year as your official escort. I know that she has enjoyed most of it immensely and has done her best to keep you on schedule when you've been tempted to linger too long. I have particularly enjoyed the spectacle of the limo turning up at our front door and having Colin or Chris whisk her away on official business, and I've enjoyed it almost as much as the ensuing peace and quiet in the house. John, we have enjoyed some good events this year together. Raising green flags, I had to mention that one, attending your quiz nights, judging the autumn show, and more recently joining you, as I mentioned earlier, for one of your days walking across the south of the borough, and most recently launching Hillingdon in Bloom 2019. So John and Fiona, please enjoy the year ahead and the rest you will now get, in the certain knowledge that you have behind you a job well done. Congratulations and thanks to both of you.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to associate myself with the comments of Councillor Puddifoot, Councillor Curling and Councillor Bianco in both congratulating you to your new position, but also thanking the mayoral escort and also Fiona for all of their fantastic work they've done over the last year. As we've heard, John has undertaken nearly 700 engagements, and I've even had people asking whether the Mayor's Parlour had been turned into some sort of cloning room, because there seemed to be a sense of quite a number of different John Morgans going around the borough, given the sheer volume of engagements that you were committing to. So you have worked phenomenally hard during the last year. Thank you for all the walks and all the talks and all the formidably difficult quiz nights that you've presided over and raised a very healthy sum of money for 3 fantastic charities who I know are extremely grateful. Thank you also, if I may be allowed to be slightly parochial, for everything you've done for residents in Northwood Hills. I know that you've invited the local residents association, including people who've never been to this chamber before, to have a look round, and I know it's been a good way of getting local residents aware of what the council does, and thank you for opening up the council to residents. This time last year, when I was seconding your nomination, I rather cheekily poked fun at you for the fact that you support two Premiership football teams, not one but two, neither of which historically have had much success in recent times. But I am pleased to report that both clubs during your mayoral year have somewhat responded, with Tottenham Hotspur and Watford being the two clubs in question. So it is great to see that your mayoral year has extended far and wide in terms of its influence. As others have said, you are a great credit to this borough. I'm very privileged to serve as a fellow ward colleague of yours, and you're a great credit to Northwood Hills, and people in Northwood Hills are extremely proud to have you as one of their ward councillors. Thank you for everything you've done, and I hope you get a brief, well-earned rest before the work starts again. Thank you.
Councillor Cawthorne.
Mr Mayor, congratulations firstly on your appointment once again. Good to see you there. John, I couldn't allow this moment to pass without putting my two halfpence in, because it really has been an enormous pleasure to observe your mayoral year, both from a distance and close at hand, particularly on occasions when I've been with you on a number of events connected with my portfolio. You may remember in November we opened Grassy Meadow Court, and on that occasion I was struck by the very informed interest you took in the state-of-the-art surroundings, as well as the ease with which you engaged with people suffering with dementia. Not the easiest thing. And I was very appreciative too of the time you spent with officers recognising their work in bringing that project to a very successful conclusion. You may also recall in the same month you and I were both at Lord's for the Cricket 2-for-1s Awards. It was a very proud evening for us, you may recall, because Hillingdon won the individual team award, and there you and I were, both being shown by the lads the correct way to hold a cricket bat. And of course, I'm a bowler, not a batsman, so it's useful for me at least anyway. And I found out only yesterday, and this may be a first for a Hillingdon mayor, that you actually attempted to get a record registered by Guinness for a fundraising dribbleathon. Hard for anyone to say, let alone me, in which you took part, which unfortunately didn't meet the criteria, but never mind. Throughout the year, your energy, your enthusiasm, and your obvious relish for the role has shone through all that you've done, as well as your pride in the richness of our borough in all its diversity. And as we've heard earlier, I think this serves as a reminder to those of us in the political fray of really what it's all about. And you've given so generously of yourself, ably assisted by Fiona and Pauline, and upheld the very best traditions of the office of mayor. And you've instigated one or two of your own, as we've heard. Using the season tickets to help raise funds for your charities was an innovative idea, but since I'm sure you'll be using them far more next season, I'll have to make my own arrangements clearly. John, I hope that you will take some very fond memories away from your mayoral year, as well as our heartfelt thanks. I know I will, and certainly many others will too. Enjoy a good rest after the cup final, and we look forward to seeing you back in harness. Thank you very much.
Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and congratulations. I just wanted to say a few words, nothing very much, but just to thank John for being a good and fair mayor, which we all appreciated very much. But also, on a personal note, to thank him for coming down to West Drayton, where people there, I know, appreciated very much the visits that he made. And I can remember John on what must have been one of the hottest days of the year, attending St Catherine's School Fete, no shade, in full mayoral robes, and I thought you deserve a medal, and Fiona too. So I can't give you one, but I can give you thanks for that. Also for coming down to the Food Bank Awards, where volunteers, sometimes who only volunteer for a morning a week or something like this, came together, and John and Fiona came down to hand out the awards. There was one volunteer retired. He'd been an HGV fitter. He had never received an award in his life for anything. And the first time he receives an award, it's from the Mayor of Hillingdon. So it was a really great event, that. And I thank you for that, John, and Fiona too, for coming down. It meant a lot, not only to him, but to everybody there. On an even more personal note, John, we've missed you on the planning committee, but I have tried to remind them about the need for motorcycle parking.
Okay, well now we move on to sort of item 7.2. Thank you, Lloyd. Is that the vote of thanks approved? Thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. Item 7.2, which is a very enjoyable subject, which is the presentation of the past mayors, the past mayoresses and the past mayor's escort badges. That's for John, is it? Right, thank you. John, hold on. You're going to give him a hard act for me to follow. I know I've got the walk to do, John, yeah. Well done. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Cheers, thank you. Past mayoresses, Dan. Well done. Great. There you go. Thank you. And the past mayor, not last but not least, the past mayor's escort. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Yes, I don't think it's right. It's getting me down. Okay, we now move on to item 8, which is the report of Democratic Services. Councillor Puddifoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are 4 items contained within this report. The first is to note the appointment of the Deputy Leader of the Council and the Cabinet as follows. Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Education and Children's Services, Councillor David Simmons. Cabinet Member for Central Services, Culture and Heritage, Councillor Richard Lewis. Cabinet Member for Finance, Property and Business Services, Councillor Jonathan Bianco. Cabinet Member for Community, Commerce and Regeneration, Councillor Douglas Mills. Cabinet Member for Planning, Transportation and Recycling, Councillor Keith Burrows. Cabinet Member for Social Services, Housing, Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Philip Cawthorne. The second item relates to the appointment of a Council Champion for Mental Health. I know that this is something supported by the Leader of the Opposition, and I am recommending the appointment of Councillor Steve Tuckwell. I move the recommendation.
Is that seconded? Councillor Simmons.
Mr. Mayor, I formally second and reserve my right.
Are there any other speakers? Is that agreed? Agreed.
Mr. Mayor, the third item refers to the appointment of an independent person to the Standards Committee, and it is recommended that Mr. David Smith be reappointed to the position. I move the recommendation.
Is that seconded?
Mr. Mayor, I formally second and reserve my right.
Any other speakers? Is that agreed? Agreed.
Mr. Mayor, the final item proposes a small change to the rules regarding non-attendance at committees and a change to the protocol for member-officer relations regarding members' inquiries, clarifying the treatment of an inquiry from a member referring to a ward-specific item and that requesting information covering another member's ward, a wider geographical area or the whole borough, which it is proposed should be made by the relevant group leader. There are broadly 2 areas covered by this amendment, the first dealing with an issue not in our own ward, and the second using members' inquiry process to seek information in an area wider than our own wards. As members will probably be aware, there is a strict parliamentary protocol which states that MPs do not pursue issues raised by or about constituents of other MPs, and they are told, in the absence of any very clear definition of this protocol, you should use your common sense and refer any matter concerning someone who is not your constituent to his or her own MP. This recommendation is not as prescriptive and simply requests that the relevant group leader assesses the facts of the case where a member wishes to intervene in another ward and if it's considered valid, provides detail of the reason. The second aspect of the use of members' inquiry process, not for an issue that is ward specific, but to request area or borough-wide information, and given the potential cost implications and the use of officer time, which, as mentioned in the protocol, could be deemed unreasonable, this amendment will again allow the group leader to provide an explanation as to why the information should be provided. The amended protocol will apply to all members, regardless of political allegiance, and will provide an openness and transparency to the protocol that I know most members in this chamber will welcome. Having said that, a member of the Labour group has questioned the legality of this recommendation and the legal advice provided. So, for the avoidance of doubt, the Borough Solicitor has provided further legal guidance to all members, in which he states, in conclusion, it is my view that the proposed amendment to the protocol is neither unlawful or unconstitutional. Again, for the avoidance of doubt, the administration have full confidence in the advice of the Borough Solicitor. Indeed, we rely on his advice on an almost daily basis in so many areas of council business, and we will accept his legal advice on this matter. I move the recommendation.
Councillor Simmons.
Mr Mayor, I formally second and reserve my right.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Curling.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This item is a very late item that most members will have only had sight of this evening. It may appear to be just a minor tweak, however, I believe that the full implications of this have not been given the due diligence that they deserve. Residents currently have access to any councillor they wish to contact, and if a resident contacts a councillor in a different ward to which they live, then the councillor normally refers them to their ward councillors. However, there are exceptions where a resident chooses to contact a specific councillor. This may be that they have dealt with that councillor before and wishes to again, even though they have moved to a different ward. There may be specific areas of expertise of a certain councillor that attracts residents to them for advice. This proposed change would make it more difficult for our residents to access the elected member of their choice. Under the Leader in Cabinet system, we have an executive of 7 members, and the remaining 58 members have a scrutiny role. This is to provide the checks and balances and to ensure that the Leader and the Cabinet don't act as a dictatorship, so all non-executive members have a duty to ask questions and submit inquiries as to what decisions are made and how local taxpayers' money is being spent. We have individual responsibilities, such as our corporate parenting role, which means that each and every one of us have responsibilities for the looked after children in the whole borough. We also need to consider our individual responsibilities with regard to the Data Protection Act, because we are registered with the ICO as individual data controllers. So what are the implications of this change to our responsibility as data controllers? The answer to this seems to be to push things through the group leaders. I'm not sure how this would impact each member's individual responsibilities. And as the leader of the Labour group, I do not want to be a censor or a blocker or to any member carrying out their public duties or be the reason for their individual responsibilities being compromised. Mr Mayor, the public perception of politicians is at an all-time low, so we must act in an open, honest and accessible way. I would urge all members to put their own responsibilities ahead of their party allegiances and vote against this change. We will be requesting a recorded vote, which for Labour members will be a free vote with no whip applied. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Money.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very briefly, I would like to just reiterate what my colleague next to me has already said. This item is very late on the agenda, with many of the members only seeing it tonight. Constitutional amendments are some of the most significant decisions that this council makes. As such, Mr Mayor, surely it is right and proper that the item should not be taken en bloc like this. Each question, given its importance, should be considered independently. I'll be voting against this tonight, but I am not opposed to Article 2. We are being forced to make a decision on separate issues as one. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Edgington, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also am speaking against the first part of the proposal, although Councillor Puddifoot actually said it second. The only intention of this plan seems to be to try and reduce the number of members' inquiries. For any committee members, there is a common law entitlement, as has been stated by the Borough Solicitor, to information concerning the areas covered by their committee. And in addition, all councillors are entitled to ask for information about children in care, as they are corporate parents, especially as, in my opinion, this has become particularly ineffective over the past year following the last year's AGM alterations, again without the normal notice.
Councillor O'Brien, can you let him speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The changes which we will vote against will only make a marginal reduction in the number of members' inquiries and will probably lead to an increase in freedom of information requests, because in my case I will ask that as well. So as I see it, the changes give the wrong impression. Just at the time the government has issued revised statutory guidance on overview and scrutiny in local authorities, the Minister stated that authorities and residents can reap the value of enhanced scrutiny. We will vote against, or at least I will, and I hope most of my colleagues will vote against this proposal and ask for a recorded vote. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For many residents, the council is the one and indivisible body, and speaking to a councillor, any councillor, as far as they are concerned, is speaking to the council, whatever party one represents. When we can work together as councillors, both Labour and Conservative, the outcome is stronger on committees and common issues, and residents do not appreciate party politics being dragged into the issues and problems they bring to us. The present system works well, I think. If a resident from another ward comes to me with a problem, I will submit an ME copying in the ward councillors from the other ward and asking officers to respond to the ward councillors concerned. When the answer is received by them, the ward councillors will then deal with it as they see fit. Now I will have to ask residents why they are coming to me, explain the new system, get an answer, inform my group leader, and see whether it's good enough for me to be able to submit an ME or not. What unnecessary bureaucracy and time wasting this will introduce. Residents go to different councillors for many reasons. Are we now to stop this and explain that we can't submit their query, but they must go to their own ward councillors unless they have a valid reason? What is an acceptable valid reason? Who decides this and adjudicates on this matter? If we submit an ME for another ward, will we be disciplined? Will our inquiry not be answered and information withheld? Is it legal or democratic to withhold information when the council is required to act reasonably in all matters? Who is going to monitor and report on all this? Labour members work hard and take MEs seriously. Some of our MEs raise issues that continue for months and even involve us attending court with some residents. Sometimes I receive requests for help from residents so urgent that I phone officers for immediate assistance. If they're from another ward, what do I say? I must have a valid reason for you coming to me, or I cannot deal with you. I do not believe in all conscience I could do this. Since the election in May last year, by the end of March this year, Hillingdon's 21 Labour councillors have submitted 5,301 MEs, while the 44 Conservative councillors had submitted 4,678. Of these almost 10,000 MEs, a very small proportion were submitted by councillors for wards not their own. We are simply too busy with too many often complex problems to now have to cope with another layer of bureaucracy, and I believe residents will not appreciate these changes. This change introduces division where there is currently none. I ask the leader to consider this matter again and please withdraw this change to the Constitution. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move Council Procedure Rule 14.11 to ask the question now be put, please.
I've already called Councillor Allen, so she will have to speak.
Can you repeat what you said? Because we'd all like to hear what you said.
Can you continue, Councillor Allen?
Thank
I've
you.
found in your favour.
I didn't plan to speak tonight. Well, I'm going to. I believe this whole agenda item was written on the back of a fag paper. And I'm glad I don't smoke anymore, because believe me, I couldn't find a fag paper that small. When a resident comes to me late at night on a telephone call, tells me that they're going to commit suicide, I don't turn around and say to them, hold up there, I'm going to have to call my leader and ask if I can take this call. I do not want to waste time asking where they live, who they live with, or anything else. I want to deal with their problem. I have other cases similar, and I'm sure we all do. And I don't know how many of the members here have actually read the paper, bearing in mind how late in the day we got it. And I wonder if Wednesday principles applied here, but it seems the way this council runs at the moment, day by day it's left to the leader to decide whether he's going to move forward with another item on the agenda. So I will be opposing this, and I'll be using the words the council always uses. We are there for the residents, they are not there for us. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons, you reserved your right.
Well, Mr Mayor, very briefly, I have complete faith in the advice of the Borough Solicitor, but I think the justification for the motion proposed by the leader this evening goes beyond that. We as elected members have a responsibility to exercise judgment when we're approached by residents. And in the vast majority of cases, we know from the evidence that members do that effectively. And in a situation like those we've heard outlined by some of the members opposite, this new protocol, this revision to the protocol, would have no direct impact anyway. It is aiming purely at those situations where it's clear that a member is going well beyond the normal exercise of their role as a ward councillor or within their portfolio, and seeking information that is either imposing a significant cost to taxpayers in officer time, or in some cases may be motivated, in some cases, for example, by residents who don't like the answer that they've been given after due process by one ward councillor who are approaching someone else in an attempt to get a different answer. In some cases, people with commercial interests who are approaching lots of different councillors, seeking to send them on a fishing expedition so they can access information. And the transparency which this revision to the protocol brings would enable us to ensure that the members' inquiry system is being used to serve our residents' needs, using taxpayer resources efficiently for that purpose, and not being used or abused for wider and improper and inappropriate purposes. Now, I have great confidence that both the Leader of the Opposition and any future Leader of the Opposition, the Leader of the Council, any future Leader of the Group, should circumstances change, will be the right people able to exercise appropriate discretion in consultation with officers to ensure that where information is needed for a good purpose that serves our residents, that it will be provided, but to act as a more effective filter to ensure that the focus we have on the efficient use of our officer time remains in place. And for that reason, I wholeheartedly support and will be voting for the motion and the revision of the protocol that's been proposed this evening.
Councillor Puddifoot.
Thank you. Not quite. Thank you, Mr Mayor. As Leader of the Council, I very regularly get residents email me or contact me with an issue that is not a ward issue for me, and I always refer them to their ward councillors. It is the correct thing to do. And Councillor Duncan, it is quite simple. You just say you need to contact your ward councillors. Now, if it is urgent, you will go to the leader and say, I've got this, can I deal with it? And the leader will have to make a decision. Now, I make decisions all day, every day, and I'm quite capable of doing this, as indeed is Councillor Curling. So it is not really an issue. The legal advice is sound, and I don't doubt at all the advice given by the Borough Solicitor, and I'll take his legal advice over Councillor Egginton's any day. Councillor Allen referred to the way the council is run at the moment. The way the council is run at the moment is why there are 44 of them and 44 of us, 21 of them. That is the difference. The residents do appreciate what we do. They want the work done by their ward councillors for them, and this is what this is intended to do. It will not interfere with genuine ward work, it will not interfere with genuine policy work, but we do need a reason for any change from what is going to be the standard protocol. Thank you.
We now come to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just explain for the benefit of our guests this evening, most votes in council are taken by show of hands or an indication, but on occasion members are entitled to ask for a recorded vote where I will ask each member in turn how they wish to vote on this matter. So I'll be asking if you're voting for the amendments to the Constitution as moved by Councillor Puddifoot tonight, against or abstaining. Councillor Ahmad Walana. Councillor Allen. Councillor Arnold. Councillor Bianco. Councillor Birra. Councillor Bliss. Councillor Bridges. Councillor Brightman. Councillor Burrows. Councillor Chamdale. Councillor Chapman. Councillor Chubidar. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Cawthorne. Councillor Curling. Councillor Dennis. Councillor DeVille. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dott. Councillor Duncan. Councillor Edwards. Councillor Edgington. Councillor Farley. Councillor Flynn. Councillor Fife. Councillor Goddard. Councillor Graham. Councillor Hagger. Councillor Hensley. Councillor Higgins. Councillor Herngee. Councillor Kaufman. Councillor Lakmana. Councillor Lavery. Councillor Lewis. Councillor Makwana. Councillor Markham. Councillor Mathers. Councillor Melvin. Councillor Milani. Councillor D. Mills. Councillor R. Mills. Councillor Money. Councillor Morgan. Councillor Morse. Councillor Nelson. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Oswell. Councillor Palmer. Councillor Prince. Councillor Puddifoot. Councillor Radia. Councillor Riley. Councillor Rodrigues. Councillor Sansapuri. Councillor Seaman Digby. Councillor Simmons. Councillor Singh. Councillor Stead. Councillor Sweeting. Councillor Tuckwell. Madam Deputy Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
For.
Mr. Mayor, that motion is carried.
Okay, we now move on to item 9 on the order paper. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move agenda item 9 on the order paper for the committee membership for 2019-2020. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second and reserve my right to speak.
Are there any other speakers? Is that agreed? Great. Item 10, the Policy and Overview Committee Annual Report. This is for noting only. Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to present and recommend the annual report from the Policy Overview and Scrutiny Committees to Council this evening. Following some minor amendments to refresh the committee structure as agreed at the last Council AGM, it has been another productive year in terms of overview and scrutiny within our borough. In Hillingdon, our committees play a strong and important role and have responsibility in monitoring council activity and the performance of local services, influencing policy and delivering improvements to how we operate and how we deliver services to our residents. The work is varied and engages with many different partners, residents groups and local organisations. Again, this year committees have been very active and will be presenting their findings to Cabinet on a number of completed reports within the coming months. To highlight some of the work carried out during the year, the Corporate Services, Commerce and Communities Committee have undertaken 2 reviews, with their major one being focused around the operation of the Council's Community Safety Team and interaction with local police teams following the Metropolitan Police's reorganisation and creation of the new West Area BCU. The committee heard from senior police representatives as well as being invited to view the Council's new CCTV control room, along with some members joining the Council-funded tasking team on a nighttime policing operation across the south of the borough. The Social Care, Housing and Public Health Committee has continued its good work under Councillor Palmer, who will provide further details and specifics on this work shortly. The work of the External Services Committee continues to monitor and scrutinise non-council organisations whose work impacts on our residents. Working closely with partners through in-depth and probing questions, the committee provides an ongoing examination on health-focused issues, as well as monitoring the performance of the local NHS Trust. Its major focus this year has been on investigating the provision at Michael Sobel House, which remains an ongoing and important issue. The Residents, Education and Environmental Services Committee also oversaw 2 reviews, with the primary one focused on payment modernisation and enabling technology across key areas within the resident services portfolio. The committee embraced the advancements in payment methods along with changing user habits, but with resident focus always the priority, remain mindful that not all residents have the desire to move towards modern payment technology. From an environmental perspective, this committee received updates on highway maintenance and detailed information on fly tipping, as well as considering how the number of successful prosecutions in this area could be increased. Each of these reviews has engaged a wide number of partners and witnesses, for which all members are grateful, and I'm pleased to recommend and move this report to Council. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that report? Councillor Palmer.
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. As Chairman of Social Care, Housing and Public Health, I am pleased to second this report tonight. The work that we undertake on our policy overview committees is a vital part of our duties as councillors. I am immensely proud of the work that I do in this area. It is essential for our residents that our POCs are environments that maintain the culture of this well-run council. As Chairman, I encourage a culture of honesty, respect and transparency. Any witness taking part in our selected reviews must be free to be heard without prejudice in order for this council to continue to secure efficient delivery of public services and facilitate growth and improvements within our own structure and governance. The committee is currently undertaking a major review on the impacts of the rollout of universal credit on our residents. We have currently extended this review as we need to see more necessary witnesses from our most vulnerable residents. As has been highlighted by recent parliamentary events, decisions taken at the highest level affect us all. Whilst as a council we are faced with these decisions, here in Team Hillingdon Conservatives we continue to be solely focused on serving all residents well. We have recently established a corporate parenting panel, a significant responsibility for us as elected members, which has already been mentioned at length in this chamber. In January, as part of our POC work, we invited a presentation from our Children in Care Council. It was an inspirational evening where we heard from young people about the experience they have of service delivery in Hillingdon. We were in the presence of gifted speakers, and I have no doubt councillors in the making. We could not do this work without the support of our democratic services, who sit beside us, taking copious notes and transferring those into excellent reports that go before the Cabinet and Council. In conclusion, thank you to all officers and witnesses from outside bodies who have showcased some amazing work before our POCs in the last year. I commend this report to the Council.
Is that report noted? Okay. We now move to item 11, statement by the Leader of the Council, Councillor Puddifoot.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you start your mayoral year, I am able to confirm that Hillingdon Council is in a sound position and continues to provide facilities, services and a level of financial and business management that are the envy of many other councils. From our outstanding leisure facilities to having more green flags for our parks and open spaces than any other council in the UK for 6 consecutive years, to having rebuilt or refurbished every one of our libraries and kept them all open, and having one of the largest school building programmes in London, from the free-to-use weekly refuse and recycling programme to a raft of benefits for our over 65s, including free burglar alarms, free swimming and free allotments. As well as freezing council tax year on year for 10 years for all residents, and this year having the lowest council tax rise in London, we once again froze council tax for those over 65 for the 13th consecutive year. We've also built up substantial levels of cash reserves to assist us in dealing with the financial challenges that still lay ahead of us. We also now have some of the best staff in local government working for Hillingdon Council. Mr Mayor, nearly all elected councillors are here because they want to make a difference in Hillingdon, but as I've often said, it's the ability to work together as a team towards that common vision that is important. The ability to direct individual skills towards common objectives is the formula that allows a collection of individuals to produce outstanding results. It is this that makes the Conservative administration in Hillingdon so strong and so successful. I also take this opportunity to thank the opposition for the part they have played at committee and council level. May I also pay particular tribute to the leader of the opposition, Councillor Peter Curling. Peter has not enjoyed good health in the past year, but he has continued to serve this borough well. Thank you, Peter. Mr Mayor, I am grateful that I have a first-class deputy leader in Councillor David Simmons, who is not only an asset to Hillingdon, but to local government in general. I also have a highly competent and experienced cabinet, and as I alluded to earlier, the achievements of my group are the result of the continued efforts of each individual within that group at all levels of administration and activity. I'm indeed fortunate, particularly when you see the disunity in the major parties at national government level, to have a unified team to captain. Mr Mayor, as I approach my 20th year as leader of this council, during which time I've experienced 9 changes in leaders of the opposition, I'm proud that Hillingdon is now recognised as one of the best run councils in the country. The Conservative team that makes up the administration in Hillingdon have delivered a great deal for the people of this borough. That has been achieved through strong political leadership, sound financial management and good business practice. What has been achieved and continues to be achieved in Hillingdon during these times of financial constraints for local government really is amazing. But as I continually say, this administration will not only be measured on its achievements to date, but on its potential to continue to deliver for the residents of this borough in the future. Mr Mayor, all elected members of this chamber are here to serve and protect our people, our environment and our heritage. And in Hillingdon, that is what we do. So I end by thanking all members of council from both parties for the part they play in doing so. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, if I may, just before you formally close the meeting, the Mayor is about to call the meeting to a close and will proceed this way down to Committee Room 6. If all his guests would like to proceed out that way down to Committee Room 6, where the Mayor will be hosting a reception for you. Unfortunately for the members, I need to hang on to them for a few minutes longer, but if you could, once the Mayor closes the meeting, proceed swiftly down to Committee Room 6. Thank you.
I formally close the meeting. Thank you for attending.